Monday, the first starting of the day, they listen to a podcast, they discuss about it, and then start going to work. Like what all insights can be taken. So this is something. So this is how you can travel to 130 plus countries for free. Just start a podcast. You don't need to be very perfect in starting a podcast. So how many of you here have this problem of overthinking? Everybody, right? Yeah. You want to vent it out, I'll tell you a secret. Don't reveal your name, just start a podcast. Without revealing your name, have a pseudonym. Whatever you want to vent out, just vent it out on the podcast. Somebody will listen it. Yeah. Somebody will listen it and it will definitely create an impact to them. So our podcast is actually a vent out session for myself and my co-founder. We vent out all the business news there and it is creating impact. We don't want to create impact, but it is creating value. So you really want to vent out anything, all the dirty secrets also, please feel free to start a podcast. Yeah. So the most important part, you must be wondering how do I start a podcast? It's a very easy thing, it's not a very hard thing to do, anybody can start a podcast today. Yeah, so there are only three things which you need to focus on. So first thing is planning, what kind of content you want to do. And the second thing is how do you produce that content, and third thing is how do you promote the content. So what are you going to talk about? This is the most important thing because podcast has different kinds of sessions you have. Is it a one-person episode, or you're going to bring in guests into the podcast, or is it a combination 4 or 5 friends get together and you can discuss topics on your own. So first thing you plan what kind of content you're going to talk about. And the second thing is how frequently you're going to release your episode. This is one important thing. I'll tell you some real data that happened. Back in 2020 when the COVID hit, right, there are only around 10 to 20 Tamil podcasts in Spotify if you check. But within this period of 3 years, podcast has been mushrooming a lot. There are around 500 to 600 podcasts now. They have understood the power of audio content. They also know that this will be growing as a big market in India. So if you want to start a podcast, this is actually the right time to start. Please stick on to what kind of frequency you're going to release the episodes. Is it a weekly episode, or are you going to release it for 15 days once or monthly once and so on? And the third thing is what kind of topic discussion does it fall under? Is it a comedy podcast, or does it fall under politics, business or technology? You always have the US data backing with you. So whatever genre you want to start, please check with the United States data and then start the podcast. And the fourth, the most important thing is what kind of content bucket does it fall under? So everybody here must be consuming some content every day, right? Have you just taken a seat back and thought of why you are consuming that content? It must either be educating or it must be either entertaining. These are the two things why you are going to consume content. So these are the 4 buckets which you can have. First one is the inspirational content. Whatever examples I have given here is from the MBA perspective. You can apply it to yourself as well. So useful content how to choose a proper MBA college will definitely be a useful content for everyone. And the third one is how to celebrate their life. So you people can get together with your friends. After a long time you can discuss with them what are the good old days you had in your college. That itself will be a very good content. So the fourth one is topical content. Currently if there's any trending topic, you can definitely discuss on it. So how to produce a podcast starter pack? This is very easy. These are the 2 things which you need. For recording the podcast, there is an app called Discord. So you can connect on Discord with guests, or you can do a solo podcast as well. And for editing the podcast, you have a software called Audacity. Both of these softwares are free to use, so you can use these softwares. And a normal earphone is enough. You don't need to buy any expensive fancy things to start a podcast. Keep it very simple, and if you have the money, feel free to spend it, get a good headphone. Yeah. And the main thing is how do you publish a podcast? So what happened is Spotify has purchased an app called Anchor, and they've changed it to Spotify for podcasters now. All you need to do is just record the content and edit it using Audacity, and just publish your audio to this platform called Spotify for podcasters. It will take care of publishing it to all the music apps which you have right now, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Ghana, and so on. So I just wanted to recommend you 2 books. This will be definitely helpful to your life as well. If you are in the business domain or marketing domain. So these are the two books, like Contagious and Fast Cheap Viral. I've been implementing whatever I've read in this book in my life and in my business decisions as well. So you too can get inspired by these two books. Yeah, so in case anybody is starting a podcast and you have any doubts, like feel free to reach us on Instagram. So the name of the page is MBA Film School. And if you want to mail us as well, like you can mail it to mbafilmschool@gmail.com. Yeah, thank you.
May I ask,
Yeah.
how do you feel today that how many of the number that you have reached? What do people?
Actually, we are aiming for a bigger number. It's not a big number for us.
Not yet.
Yeah, you're not yet. Yeah.
So what do you have any estimate? Once I reach this particular number, I.
For us, 1 million is one is 1 million. We'll be reaching it by next 4 months as well.
Do you remember who was your first follower who was always encouraged you?
Yeah, as I told you, like the family is like they didn't know that it will reach such a big height. So all the first time I was teachers check out from my seniors or juniors who were there.
Do you have seniors who are your students?
No, not exactly.
Who learned from you?
I have no idea like how many of my seniors are doing this podcast. Like initially I know who are the people who are listening, but now I have no idea like who are the people who are listening.
So can we have a great applause for So we will be having a session audience Q&A, and before that myself and Mithun will be having a quick interview kind of style where I'll be asking some of the common questions where a lot of our audience would like to know. So Mithun, please. Thank you so much for the wonderful intro as well as your humorous presentation. So the very first question we want to know is that podcast is all about voice. You are not going to show your video and stuff like that. So how do you set your mood right for the podcast?
Yeah, so the first thing is I ensure that my parents are not around me. So whenever I go to temple or something, I just need 1 hour to make that podcast. So I just ask them like, are you going to the market or are you going to movie or something? So I just call my friend and say like, this is the time when we start the podcast and we start doing like that.
Fine, that's right, and then I can relate to it because a lot of us, if we want to do something personal, we'll first check whether our parents know.
Yeah, because I don't feel comfortable talking when they are around.
Fine. So the next is like you showed a lot of tools, right? So as a podcaster, you will be wearing a lot of hats. Like you will be the editor, you will also be the marketer, and a lot of other things. So how do you find balance between these two?
Yeah, like first thing we focus on is the content which we give out, because if the content is